Welcome back, everybody, to the Con Expo Con Egg podcast brought to you by our good friends over at Komatsu. Cannot wait to see what they have in store for us at this year's Con Expo show in March. Today, I have with me the world's best operator. We're going to go ahead and label him. He's like, don't say that. John Schiedeck from Schiedeck Construction. So all the way from Central Texas. So thanks for being on the show, John.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no, man. Whenever I saw your work at the Global Operators Challenge, I was like, well, this is somebody who I want to have on, and then followed you on Instagram and saw that you have a lot of stuff kind of going on. And rather than ask you over social media, I kind of wanted to just get on here and had a good opportunity to chat about you and what you have going on. So I'd like to know a little bit about yourself, like what you have going on. Do you own a business? Do you just run machinery? What do you got?
I own my own 140M blade and did a lot of owner operator type work with that. And when I moved here to Texas, I started picking up a lot of my own work. So I'm kind of leaving the seat per se and going out and branching out, trying to get my own work and go that route.
Nice. How long have you done this? So, and have you always just done grader work, or?
No, I've always I've been in the construction industry for almost 17 years, and I've done pretty much everything top side. I'm not very well versed in underground side. I've done some of it, but more on the finish grading type end of the work. But I've been running blade for myself probably 6 years now, owning my own blade, and worked for a company before as a utility hand, running everything they had, mostly blade for them for probably 5 years for them.
So I want to know what got you into doing your own thing. But first of all, like when you say 17 years, what got you into the industry as a whole?
It's kind of a family venture. I'm third generation in the seat. My grandparents moved here from Germany after World War II. And when my grandpa moved to California, he ended up starting he hadn't seen a need for doing septics and that sort of thing in the area. And so he bought a backhoe and dump truck and then moved over to getting my dad involved. And my dad took it a step further. And then in 2008, when the recession hit, my dad got out of it and kind of branched out to doing more fabricating type work. And I took over the earth moving side. So
Oh wow, nice. So that's pretty cool. Your grandfather started doing some septics and stuff. That's kind of what we do up here. That's pretty interesting with it, just with a backhoe and stuff like that.
yep, 1979 I think is when he started.
Wow, that's incredible. So that's kind of so growing up, then that kind of obviously got you into it, being in and around the industry. What aspects of it were you like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do, or is it just because that's what family did? That's the path that I'm going to take.
I was in the seat, I couldn't even sit in it, just reaching the pedals, standing against the seat, and I knew that's what I wanted to do from day one. I mean, everything I've set to do. When you're a kid, everyone asks you, what do you want to do when you grow up? And my three answers were drive trains, fly planes, and drive tractors. And I've done all three. So, but yeah,
That's pretty neat. So you can fly planes?
I've flown before. I'm not a licensed pilot yet. I'm waiting for that opportunity to come.
That's awesome. Yeah, that'd be something that I would like to try too. That's something about being up there, the freedom of it. It's much like driving a grader, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I contribute a lot. I talked with the pilot for a while and, running GPS and having that bubble in your butt, when you run machines, a lot of it, he said a lot of blade hands that he's known make really good pilots.
That's cool. That's really neat. So what got you into doing you did utility work, but then what got you into doing graders and stuff like that?
It all started with a water truck, actually. I worked for a company in the Bay Area in California, and we couldn't find any water trucks. And so I ended up driving down to LA. I bought just a little bobtail Ford L8000, and I built my own truck. I maxed out my credit card, maxed out my savings, and put the whole thing together in my dad's shop, and the thing paid for itself in the first month. And that kind of escalated to buying a mini excavator. And I was renting all these to the company I was working for. They were really good to me. And so I ended up, we had 5 motor graders on rent at the time. And I'm like, man, I wonder what it'd take to buy a blade. And so I started looking into it. And unfortunately, we had to part ways, conflict of interest, I guess. And I was stuck with a motor grader. So I made it work. Just started calling all the big name contractors around and seeing if they needed, some help on a blade, and they started hiring me, and it went from there. My blade I bought. Let's see, it had 1,100 hours on it, and I bought it in 2017, and I'm at 8,000 hours on it now. So I put some hours on it in those few short years.
Wow. And so you're owner operator then.
Yeah, pretty much.
What are some challenges? I mean, like being an owner operator, I mean, like if you're renting out, you're the one that's doing it. So like, do you have help on the back end, like doing the invoicing and the books and stuff like that, or you're it?
No, my wife helps me a lot with the books. She does all the invoicing. She does all the insurance stuff. And when I was in California, we were union, so she would handle all that stuff, and that helped a lot. That way, I could go to work and focus on the task at hand.
Nice. There's something to be said about kind of what you just said before that. Those you maxed out the credit cards and your savings and you went all in. I mean, like you say that super quick, but I mean, like that's a huge life decision. I mean, that is something that not a lot of people do take that amount of risk, right? What was the thought process behind that? Like, was it daunting? Was it scary?
For me, I knew it would work. I just I knew it would. My wife, on the other hand, she wouldn't talk to me. She didn't want nothing to do with any of it. And then after it paid for itself, she realized, okay, she trusts me. So when with the water truck, she had a hard time with me doing that. And when I bought the excavator, she had a little hard time with that. And then when I bought the blade, I mean, it was over $400,000, and she didn't even bat an eye because she knew it was going to work at that time. So
That's good. So you believed you basically you believed in yourself and you're like, yeah, no matter what, I can make this happen.
yeah, yeah, I think it's just a matter of kind of being stubborn to a point. You got to make it work.
Yeah. So where did the skill come into then? I mean, like, I mean, obviously being an owner operator, you're doing it. Like you said, you bought it with 1,100, you got 8,000 hours on it now. That's a lot of hours. Um, what sets you apart from other operators? I mean, like, what do you think it is? You just like, obviously when you're a good operator, like if I'm in the bulldozer, like I always say like I have a good eye for grade. Like I can tell just by looking at something. A good operator can tell just by looking at something or the feeling the way they're feeling of okay, my front's dipping a bit right now, at least on the dozer, like okay, I went down a bit here. I'm gonna feel it when I'm backing up, so I gotta lift here, like you kind of know. What is it with you that kind of sets you apart? Have you always had an eye for grade or perfection?
I think that's it. I was telling you about my grandpa who immigrated here from Germany. So, um, he's got a really big he passed away, but had a big artistic side and did oil paintings, and he's got paintings all around the world. And I think his artistic side kind of transferred down to me, and this is my artistic side. I mean, I am a perfectionist, and I have to tell myself, don't worry about it. It looks good, but in my mind, it's never good enough.
Yeah, you have to be a bit of a perfectionist with stuff like this, and being able to tell yourself like no, like that's not just good enough, like that attitude of operators are like well that's good enough, especially when you're an owner operator. That's completely different, right? Because your work is your reputation, and your reputation is if you get hired or not. So obviously if you've done that many hours, you've managed to keep yourself busy, which means that you do good work. So you do really good work and you become that greater operator that people are like, well, John, he's really good at this. Well, then you're probably going to have work lined up for a while because people are going to want you on their job sites.
That's how it ended up working out with Texas. I I wanted to move to Texas for quite a while, just never really had the opportunity to. And good friend and client of mine in California had bought 50 acres here in Texas, down by San Antonio, and he asked me because we were rained out. We couldn't do any work at the time in wintertime in California, and so he asked if I'd be interested in going out to his place that he had bought and doing a driveway and house pad and all that for him. And he uh, he moved all my equipment out here to do the work. And through social media and Instagram, actually, a really good friend of mine found out I was here, and he's a big shot at one of the local contractors here, and found out I was here and said, "You're not leaving." And I never left. I told my wife, "You got 3 weeks, pack the house up in the horse trailer and let's go." And that's what happened. That's worked out ever since, but all through reputation and social media and people seeing what I do.
Wow. You're an all-in kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah. To a fault.
Jeez, yeah, took the risk, maxed everything out, and then moved the family out.
Yep. Yep.
That's a big decision.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is faith, I think, too. You know, having a good relationship with God I contribute a lot of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, there's always something playing there, 100%. But what's you have some pictures of some skid steers, and I saw a story. You had a it was a skid steer with like it looked like the XE with like the cooling package on top. So do you have other machinery as well?
Yeah, so I got that skid steer 299 D3. I got the mulching or the forestry package on it. So I got a mulcher and brush hog and a bunch of other attachments that would go with it. I got a 615 scraper, and then between my dad and I, we got a 359 Peterbilt with an end up, and 379 Peterbilt 4,000 gallon water truck. So
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So do you run all those things then?
my dad, it's actually my dad, my brother, and I. We all do it together. We're at the point right now with work where we need an extra hand. It's growing too fast already. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but it'll happen here pretty soon, I think.
Wow. What do you like when you say, there's so much work ahead and stuff like that? What do you think about the way everything's going on in the news right now when people are talking about, recession or slowdown or stuff like that? Are you seeing any signs of that?
I mean, it's slowing down a little bit here, but I'm kind of watching all the big dogs and bigger guys out there, and they're still going at it. So I'm not seeing too much of a slowdown in here. I think Texas is going to be kind of isolated from it just because of how many people are moving here. And I mean, I'm one of them.
Especially Texas.
Yeah. So I think they're going to be a little isolated from it. I hope and pray.
The job sites that you guys are on, are you on is it like for residential developments and like roads, or are you doing pads for commercial buildings, or what kind of construction is it?
We're doing right now some big apartment complex pads, and then we got a couple little commercial jobs. I actually do a lot of work for some of Elon Musk's companies that are here, and so I pick some of that up. They keep me pretty busy doing oddball stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've done. We did a big turn lane for off of one of the main highways out here for one of their facilities because they're blocking all the traffic with their deliveries coming in. So did that. And that yeah, they're keeping us pretty busy. It's pretty nice.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You don't hear that too often. That's pretty neat. What's it like whenever he like what's the word like whenever he started moving in town and like so is he's obviously creating work and jobs for people.
Huh. Oh yeah, he's got. Well, I mean, he's got the Boring Company, which is his tunneling company, and then right across the street is SpaceX, and then probably 20 minutes away is Tesla, the huge gigafactory he just built.
Oh, you're close to that. You ever seen that in person?
Yeah, I drive by it all the time and it's
Is it
huge.
pretty incredible?
Yeah, it's probably a mile long just driving. It's huge. And then we got Samsung. They're doing a huge microchip plant just north of us in Taylor, Texas. They're actually right next to one of the jobs I'm doing for those apartment pads. And when you look, we're right next to them, maybe a quarter mile away. And we counted 130 cranes out there at one time. And that was just what we could see on the skyline. When you drive by, they got a lot smaller cranes, in between in the mix. And it looks like Con Expo when the skyline of all the cranes at Con Expo. It looks just like that. It's crazy.
Wow, I mean, those scales of those jobs, I mean, like, that's something that I don't see here, and, I mean, I think there maybe I don't even know in Canada if they build stuff like that, like, I mean, that's so intriguing to me, like, hearing that, it's so interesting, it's so unique, like, job sites that big, like the Gigafactory, like, seeing that when it was under construction, I mean, like, just the amount of dirt that was moved and machinery that was there, and then the concrete, and then like, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, the Samsung plant, I've been told, and I can't confirm it, but I've been told that it can fit three of the Tesla gigafactories inside it. That's how big it is. And when you're out there looking at it, it's pretty much connecting two cities together. It's astronomical, the size of it.
Wow, and that creates a lot of work for people.
Oh yeah. 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 That town of Taylor is exploding right now with housing. It's insane. That's another reason why I don't think it's really going to slow down too much, at least for a while, because you see all these big corporations coming here, and they're going to have people working.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of important, and during a recession too, if there ever is, or talk of one, it it helps kind of location where you are. I always say here in Ottawa, we're in a good location here in Canada because we're the nation's capital. This is where Parliament is. So about 70% of our population is federal workers. So they're still always kind of spending money, regardless of recession or not, because they don't really lose their jobs. But like in a case like yours, like, yeah, like no matter what, they're building these factories, no matter what, they need people to work there. So they're going to build the communities to support the workers. And so it kind of sounds like you're in a good position for that.
I think so. I mean, I just heard Caterpillar's moving their headquarters here to Texas as well, to Dallas. So that's 3 hours from us, but still, another big corporation moving down here. So
What is it with Texas?
I don't know. It's just they're very friendly on tax laws, I bet, for all these big places.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that they're good on taxes there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it here. It's amazing here. Leaving a place like California and then coming here, it's
Complete opposite.
oh yeah, you don't realize the freedoms that you had taken away in California till you come to a place like this. It's just free.
Yeah, oh, for sure. So I want to talk about your operator challenge. So CAT puts on a heavy equipment operators challenge every year, right?
Yep. Every 3 years.
Every 3 years, okay, like on Expo.
Yep.
And so how did the process go for that? Did you submit yourself for it? Like how did that kind of come about?
Yes, I ended up signing up myself for it. I wasn't going to, but with my social media following, everybody kept messaging me. I probably had 60 people message me, dude, you got to sign up. You got to sign up. I'm like, I don't really want to. They just kept pounding me. So I ended up doing it. And yeah, won the first two in Texas, then went to the regionals in North Carolina and won that one. And now on to Vegas.
So when is it in Vegas?
It's actually the day of my anniversary, March 14th.
Oh wow, first day of Con Expo.
Yep.
Or the
Yep.
second day, first or second day of Con Expo. No way.
I think it's the first. Yeah. So, yeah, I took my wife to Con Expo, 3 years ago and told her I took her to a tractor show for her anniversary. And then now we're going back again. So now I got to win it for her, being our, got to make it a gift for her, I guess.
So do you run all different types of machinery for this competition or
Yeah. So at the local one in San Antonio, I ran I believe it was a 950 wheel loader. And then what was it? A 301.5, I think, little tiny excavator with expandable tracks, and then 320. And so then when I won that one, they sent me up to Dallas and they had the same exact competition going on there. So the winner of that competition and myself went head to head in a little skid steer challenge where we had to grade, the closest 4 inches below form boards in a tight little form board setup. And so then North Carolina, they had a 315 that we had to do some digging with, 950. I think it was a 950. Or it might have been a 966. And then a 420 backhoe. And I don't know what Con Expos has in store. They won't release any of that. They said it's top secret.
It's top secret knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I heard at Con Expo, they're not even going to allow the other participants to watch the person that's doing the challenge at that moment. Because, like in North Carolina, everyone watches everyone, and you pick up tricks. So one guy does something good, and everyone else does that. So I don't even think they're going to allow spectator or the competitors to watch.
Did you go first or last?
They kind of had it broke up. I never went first, but I never went last. I was kind of right in the middle of
That's
most of
good.
them. Yeah. Yeah. No one likes going first.
No, 100%. We are less than 100 days from the 2023 show. That's right. We are coming up on the largest construction family reunion in North America. ConExpo ConAg is going to be here before we know it. If you have not registered yet, there's still time to secure your tickets. Visit conexpoconag.com and use the promo code podcast20 to get 20% off. That's right, 20% off with promo code podcast20. If you already have your tickets to the show, join us in the countdown to the show and comment below to let us know you're going to be there and what you're most excited to see. Man, I was going to say, like, what a skill, like, to be that good, to be able to go somewhere and do something like that, regardless of what brand or machinery or whatnot. Like, I mean, like, it's people don't realize just how hard it is to actually run a piece of machinery. Like anybody, what's it like? Runner operating is hard. Like anybody can run a piece of machinery. Not everybody can operate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's pretty impressive that you can actually do that, like with a machine, and be that good to where you're kind of recognized.
Yeah. And it is pretty challenging too, even if you're experienced at it, because you're not used to running brand new equipment all day, and you jump on a brand new machine, and every machine's got its own little quirks, and to jump on it and you don't know the quirks, they don't give you any warm up time. You're thrown in the fire. Here you go. And that it's pretty tricky. You got a real short window to learn that machine.
Yeah, yeah. There was an instance. We plow an airport here in Ottawa, and we have a Komatsu 655 grader, and it's an awesome grader. I love it. Beautiful piece of machinery, awesome line of sight, everything. And I've never run a grader before. And the guy that normally runs a grader, he slept in one morning, and we had a patient transfer flying in. So somebody that needed to go to the hospital. So I needed to hop in the grader super quick, and had to teach myself real quick how to run a grader. And and it's not a easy piece of machinery to learn. Like there's a lot of, like I always say, it's like we call it praying mantis because first of all, it looks like they always look like praying mantises. But you got all these. Is yours joystick?
Yeah, mine's joystick.
Yeah, okay, so this has all these knobbies up top, and I'm like doing this, and one's moving the blade this way, one's moving it up this way, and then all of a sudden I'm like pivoting the whole grader side to side, and then my tires are turning like this and that. I mean, like, how do you with a grader, like what was the learning curve on a grader, a piece of machinery like that?
Well, I started on the H models, the piano keys or praying mantis style, like you said. The I my dad ran blade for, man, years. I can't even count how many years. And so every time I got an opportunity, or he got an opportunity, let me on it, he threw me on it, and he'd get yelled at by the boss, get him off there, and then the boss would leave and he'd throw me back on. So I got a lot of just small windows of seat time, and then got fairly good on the H model blade, and got thrown on an M at the company that I started my water truck and everything with. And that was the first time ever in an M. And the very first day, they stuck me in a little alleyway that was probably 12 foot wide with a 14-foot blade, and I broke a fire hydrant off with it. at backing up, because the M, you can't see nothing behind you because all the filter stacked, and so it's a big learning curve, especially trying to back up. Um, but I gave about 4 months, and man, it started feeling real comfortable with it. And now I'll never go back. I mean, I like getting in an H because I feel like a real blade hand when I get in one. But the M is just so intuitive, and everything's right there. Going around manholes, it's all one smooth move, and it's just like flows like water.
Yeah. Well, I guess if it's, I don't know. I've always said this, when we're hiring people or just getting a piece of machinery, like being having it in your blood, like I always said, like it's in my blood. Like I remember being 10 or 11 years old, scooping out some dirt from a ditch, and I was running an excavator, and I remember Dad being like, like how you like that? How you like that, Tay? And I was like, oh, like, I love it. And he'd be like, all right, well, like tell me like whenever you move like how are you doing this hand to that and this, and I remember saying to him like I don't know, I couldn't explain to you how I'm doing it, I'm just doing it. And he's like, and I remember him saying like because it's in your blood, you know and I remember him saying that, and I think that that's true too. Like obviously any, you can learn a skill, and I'm not saying that you can't, but I feel like when something's truly in your blood or like operating, it's there. And I think that's what makes a really good operator stand out. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. I don't know what makes it in your blood, but yeah, if you're raised around it and previous families done it, you're gonna do it.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I got my son, he's 9 years old right now. We're building some property up 16 acres just down the road from here.
Nice.
And I had him on my 299 yesterday, actually.
I saw that. I wanted to say that. That's super cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, he's better than half the people that I've seen run the things, and he's only 9. So that makes me proud. A lot of the stuff that he was doing, he just picked up naturally, and like digging into a pile, he found out that if you just dig in the same spot of the pile, it's gets harder and harder, so he figured out to kind of chase the loose parts of the pile, and he was working his way around the whole pile. I never told him that. He just figured it out.
That's awesome. I'm always looking forward to those moments. I have a 18-month-old daughter and another one on the way. And I can't wait for those moments, excuse me, to share those with my kids. I think that's pretty that's pretty special.
It is. I love every bit of it, and wouldn't trade it for nothing.
So your 9-year-old, does he has interest, and obviously he wants to keep it in the family then operating.
Ah, I don't know yet. He's kind of in his own little things that he enjoys, but he loves running equipment, So
Well, he's got some time.
yeah, exactly. I'm not going to force him to do it. I'm going to let him kind of go where he wants to go and see what he pick up and likes to do. But one day I'll get my daughter in the stuff, but right now she'll crash into anything. She's a nut. I catch her riding her motorcycle standing on the seat, and she's only 5. She's got a little Pee Wee 50. It's pretty fun. She's a nut.
I think that's important to grow your kids up like around that sort of stuff. And like you said, like little Pee Wee 50. And like I grew up doing that sort of stuff too, and like I think there's a lot of importance in letting kids do dangerous stuff safely. I always say that. I think that that's really important because like you don't want them to be too coddled or be over safe or not let them do this or do that, because then they grow up in a world where everything's like, oh, and I feel like they find themselves that way too, maybe, like I don't know. I think that that's really important, learning like those motor skills and stuff like that from a really young age. Those are skills that even though she's just bombing around on a Pee Wee 50, like those are skills she'll bring with her for her entire life.
Yeah, core memories. And it's not just riding a motorcycle. It goes into other things of her life, like you said.
Yeah, no, 100%. I wanted to chat with you about technology. I saw a couple posts that you were doing. You had some Trimble, and stuff like that. What's your experience been like with GPS and technology on the job site?
Man, I love it. I wouldn't want to do without it. It Everyone gives GPS a bad name in the industry, saying, you're not a hand if you use GPS or something, but it's just a tool like anything else, and man, you can't be you can't beat a good operator with GPS. I mean, you could take a guy that's never run it before and stick him in it and he can run it for one. That makes some production there. But a good operator that knows how to move the material and knows where he's at all times, you can't even compare it.
You said something there. So, an operator that doesn't know how to operate, jam them in and they can still operate, you'll get production out of them. Is there value in that, or is there value them not learning with GPS first and then going on to GPS? Or do you do that? You stick them on and say, "Hey, I'm getting my money's worth out of this guy, and so what? He doesn't know how to run it without GPS, but he's doing it."
Yeah, I think there's advantages to both, but really think throwing them in the GPS machine, they can learn how to manipulate the material um, with the help of the GPS. So I think it would help them pick up the learning curve faster in the machine, because like you said with the dozer, you gotta kind of know that tipping point with the GPS, they will figure out that tipping point and see what the blade's doing and help them figure that out. Like right now I'm kind of helping my brother out, he's learning to run the blade and he knows how to run GPS fairly decent, and but he doesn't know how to run the blade that well. He can move it and run it like you said, but not really operate it. And I'm able to give him pointers, and that most people would take a lot longer to pick up just doing it freehand. And he can figure it out with the GPS helping him.
So whenever maybe some listeners, and I feel like I always skip over this, you might be a good person to get in depth with this, but like when we're talking about GPS and oh, like it helps you operate and stuff like that, like does it run the machine for you? Is it showing you grades and you're still operating it? What is the GPS doing? What's the system doing with your machine when you're operating?
It's definitely not running it for you. It automates a lot of your functions as far as, blade height and that sort of thing. But you still, as an operator, have to know what that material is going to do because all it's doing is trying to go to grade. The grade you set it at, it's going to go to. So, I mean, you have to know, if I got 3 feet of cut right there, obviously I can't take 3 feet of cut in one shot. You got to know how to run the machine until you can get to a point where that GPS can take over and help you.
So you have, your set of plans, and you have a separate screen inside your grader, and are you hitting pinpoints on it? Is it telling you, okay, this is the project for today? Is there a task? Are you giving a task? How does it work?
No, so you just basically have your set of plans and you kind of, the machine moves on those plans. You got a little machine icon and it follows where the plans move on the screen. Your machine stays where you're at, obviously. But you kind of got to go explore the job and put your blade on the ground and see what the surface conditions are, um, and kind of make a game plan of where you want to cut. Um, Obviously, if you're going on a rough grade job, you're going to have your cut fill map that'll kind of give you your heavy cuts and your heavy fills. But when you start getting down to the nitty gritty, you gotta have that blade on the ground and know, you know, hey, there's still quite a bit of cut over here, and then know where your fills are at, and just driving around is the only way to figure that out.
How fine when because obviously you do fine grading. I mean, like, how close is the GPS getting you? Like within cents?
Yeah, this job I was just doing up the road for those big apartment pads, I was within 200s on it. And it's a nice wide open field, no trees, no obstructions, just a good clear satellite signal. And on a good day like that, you'll get in within the hundreds.
So the weather does so if it's a cloudy, rainy day, you might do a worse job because the signal's not as good?
No, the clouds don't seem to affect it that much. The What affects it the most is like buildings and trees, and that's anything that can, because it's triangulating out of the sky. So anything that blocks, if there's a building there, obviously you're not going to get your signal down, where it's trying to triangulate. So you'll lose satellites. But yeah, the without any obstructions, easily 500s all day long.
That is crazy. How long has that been on? your machine, like how long have you been using technology? And is that something that when you're an owner operator that you were like, okay, I'm gonna buy some machinery and I'm gonna operate it and rent myself out. I better buy some technology along with this. When did that investment? Because it's a big investment, like it's expensive, this technology. So what was the when did you think, okay, this might be something I should invest in?
It was day one when I bought the machine. I had to have it in California. If you don't have it and you're trying to do any kind of owner operator work, you won't stay busy without it because all of the big contractors use it, and they're not gonna put a grade setter with you all day long to babysit you. I mean, a lot of the jobs there, they didn't even have staking. You just you check in on one survey point in the beginning of the day, and everything checks out, and you go. You know, so yeah, it was an investment from day one. Had to have it.
Wow. Is that something that like is there a how steep was the learning curve whenever you started using, like how many years ago was that?
So I started learning it when I was working for the company that I did the water truck stuff with, and that was in 2013. And took me about a year. I mean, you could pick it up, the general basics of it, within a few weeks, and get pretty productive at it. But to really get the ins and outs and all the deep features that people don't use that often, that took about a year. And even now, I'm still finding stuff that I never even knew it could do. So that I'm still learning with it.
Hmm. That's really neat. Is it something that like you would recommend to somebody that was being an owner operator? Like obviously you said like it's super hard to stay busy without it. Like would you be like, okay, you're gonna get a machine and then you're gonna want this? And like have you always been Trimble or has it been somebody else or why Trimble?
So I I've ran TopCon on other people's machines and stuff, and it's good. It's a great system, but I've just never really cared for it too much. But most of the contractors that I knew that I was going to be trying to go to work for with my blade ran Trimble, and so that's the reason I went with Trimble because that's what everyone had. And you can still run Trimble with TopCon base, but you have to have a special radio that reads with TopCon frequencies and stuff, which you can get around that. But yeah, at the like in Texas, if I started here, I would probably went with TopCon because a lot of the contractors here run TopCon. Um, but that's just how it worked out for me running Trimble.
How have you seen it change over the years, the technology of the GPS? Like, as far as like, this is our newest and greatest screen, this is our newest and greatest software release. Has it changed immensely? Has it changed not much?
Oh, it's changed tremendously in 17 years that I've done it. Um, I remember when they were first testing out, I believe it was Trimble. It may have been Topcon, but it was a backpack unit that the grade setter had to carry as a backpack and walk around on the job. And when I started my first company I worked for, it was all, pulling tape and hubs and you know, doing staking and all that. And you'd have a 10-foot cut with a stake in the middle of a pile at the top of it, so you didn't wipe it out. But I remember the very first day we got our first Trimble rover. And but everything before that was all like TopCon System 5, where it was, you got your laser receiver with the monkey that ran up the pole. So it's changed tremendously, especially like my machine running mastless now on the blade. That's a huge game changer for a motor grader.
Explain that. What's that? No pull.
No GPS poles on the corners of the blades anymore.
So that's something new they just came out with.
Yeah, so I believe Topcon has it. I know for sure in the John Deere machines. I think they have incorporated it into other manufacturers as well. But Trimble has it for Cat. And before you had the poles on the end of the blade, and you had to be really careful that you didn't hit your cab with a GPS receiver, or you didn't hit your front light or whatever on your other receiver, and you're always watching those heads rather than kind of watching your work. And then it limited the mobility of the motor grader. There's a lot of things that like trying to cut a back slope or something, and you'd swing your blade out to the side. you'd have to be really careful with that, or not even do it at all because the mast would be in your way. And to eliminate those has brought back all the versatility that a motor grader had. I can spin my moldboard around 180 degrees where it's facing backwards now and grade backwards with it if I want. And I've done that quite a bit. I was working on a freeway job on Interstate 5 in California right after they put the mastless on. And we're doing median work and there's nowhere to turn around unless you drive 5 miles down the way. And so there'd be times where I'd just spin my blade around and blade backwards and make some grades or fills and then turn it back around and, cut it to grade.
That's crazy. Where do you see it going, like, from here? Like, what's something that you, like, are like, "Ah, they should really do this with it next," or, "Oh," like, where does it go from here?
Oh man, on a motor grader, I really don't know. It's almost perfect.
Yeah, that's what I mean, that's why I ask, like, it's almost like where can they go with it?
Yeah, I mean, I know I've seen and heard of some rumors in the industry of them using like lidar on the front of the machines that scans, so you can see what material you have in front of you. I mean, that would be a pretty cool feature to incorporate into it. So it's always a running tally of how much cut or fill you have, and you don't have to, like I was explaining earlier, drive around the job to figure it out. It kind of records it as it goes. That'd be pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I feel like with the technology and stuff, there's just such a I feel like there's always something new coming out. But I feel like in construction, at least, like it took a bit for the technology. And like to be honest with you, like GPS up here, like it's obviously huge. It's massive. But like guys in our line of work, like a lot of the residential stuff, they're not really using it. I'm a
Mhm.
big advocate for it, even though we don't have it. I've never even used it. I've used it on some job sites just because like some other companies were there and walk around with the guy with the pull stick and kind of like mark out stuff and just that aspect of it. But as far as being on a GPS guided machine, like I've never done that. And, everything that I've been told is like, the smaller residential guys, I mentioned it, they're like, why would you use it on a septic or a house dig? Like that would make no sense. You don't need it. Like what do you say to that? Because I'm generally curious because I want to make the investment in technology and obviously but people are like, nah, like just for house digs and laneways and septics, you don't need that.
Well, man, maybe for septics, it might not be the best thing for that. I still think it would be, because you could do an infield design and carry percentages, for flow and all that. You need that. And to have that right at your fingertips and you don't have to grade check and shoot it with a laser, that would be a huge benefit. But for house digs, man, a perfect example I could think of would be Ryan from Rock Structures. I know he uses it on all his house digs, and you have no stakes that you have to worry about knocking out. Everything's right in front of you on your plans, and when you hit grade, it does grade for you. I mean, if you're doing any kind of work doing house digs, that's a huge game changer.
Yeah, I think my old man when he's listening to this right now, I think he should value that because seriously, he is the biggest advocate for saying like, "Nah, we're not spending 100,000 or whatever, to outfit stuff." But I could count so many times this year where we've gotten a caller from the builder or the homeowner being like, "Your boys ripped out the stakes. I got to get the surveyor back. It's $400 now. We're going to charge you those $400 because the boys," and they didn't do it on purpose, but they just backed over a stake, a corner stake, and now the forming guys have nothing to measure it like, and we don't know, like, is that the 4 foot offset? Did you do it correct? So I mean, just right there, even when you say that, it makes so much sense to do that.
Yeah, you're doing a house dig, you wouldn't even have to worry about where you're throwing your spoils. A lot of times they get in your way and you could just throw it right next to you and not worry about wiping out your line work or stakes. And then when you move over to the next pass, move it out of your way and you still got all your grades right there. Uh, yeah, it's huge benefit.
Yeah. And then I think that's across the board with technology. Is there anything else in construction, like technology, that you're kind of like that you utilize and use a lot? Like as far as like not even just grades, but just like other stuff, like whether it be like in the machine or
Not so much really.
just GPS.
And a lot of it's coming incorporated in the machines now. Like all the new cat excavators have the 2D grade control incorporated, which is a really awesome feature. I Hulk Cat rented me one to kind of practice with the operators challenge and stuff, and it had it. And I dug my whole house pad with it. Never pulled a laser out. And I went and checked it, and it was within a tenth, you know, with just benching your teeth and backing up and benching again. That's pretty cool stuff that's coming out.
What's cool about the Con Expo show is that you get to see a lot of that stuff, and obviously people showcase the best of the best, whether it be Cat or your Komatsu or John Deere or Doosan or Sany or Hyundai or all these brands, that showcase the best of the best, or Topcon or Trimble or Leica. They show off kind of what they have up and coming. And I think that that's what's going to be really cool, and that's what's cool about the show, is seeing what's coming up and what's next. What as far as the show, do you look forward to a Con Expo? It doesn't have to be maybe it's having beers with guys and just networking, but what do you look forward to at the Con Expo show coming up in March?
I like the technology side. I like seeing like the Trimble side, and I mean, Topcon and Leica, like you said, but Trimble for sure, because I run it, and seeing all the new things they're coming out with that you don't ever get to see. I mean, that's amazing. And obviously all the new equipment. I really want to get myself an excavator with a tilt rotator. So I like seeing that kind of stuff. And I know there's a lot of different brands at Con Expo that are showcasing their stuff there. So everything at Con Expo is just amazing for if you have any kind of interest in this industry. It's really awesome to check out.
Yeah, man. I look forward to seeing you there, and I thank you for coming on the podcast today and chatting with us about this. And hopefully, everyone can catch up with John at Con Expo in March.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I can't wait. I know I got a lot of people I got to meet up with.
I know the list never ends.
Yeah, I hope I can at least see the show a little bit.
Well, there's a lot of it to see, so.
Yeah, yep.
Thank you for listening to the Con Expo Con Ag podcast, brought to you by our good friends over at Komatsu. John and I shall see you in March. Take care. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much, Taylor.
We are less than 100 days from the 2023 show. That's right. We are coming up on the largest construction family reunion in North America. Con Expo Con Ag is going to be here before we know it. If you have not registered yet, there's still time to secure your tickets. Visit conexpoconag.com and use the promo code podcast20 to get 20% off. That's right, 20% off with promo code podcast20. If you already have your tickets to the show, join us in the countdown to the show and comment below to let us know you're going to be there and what you're most excited to see. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Con Expo Con Ag podcast that is brought to you by our good friends over at Komatsu. We'll catch you on the next one.